Hello everybody, welcome to my latest video. You're probably wondering why I'm doing a video on Inquisitor Martyr. And indeed, the question arises, why am I still playing Inquisitor Martyr after 7 years? Well, first off, I became number 1 for glory last week, which is quite impressive. But that aside, I want to go into some of the really good things about this game. I have been quite negative about this recently, and I've tried to dial that back. I will cover off why. I don't justify being negative about games. I'm usually positive to the extreme about particular games and how development works, etc. But I think the reason I've been negative about this is because I do like it so much, and I just get frustrated about certain things. But I'm going to go through why I really enjoy it before I go through that. So, first and foremost, it's an isometric ARPG, which a lot of you will already know. And isometric ARPGs are my favourite genre of game. Now, it's not the only genre I enjoy, but it is my favourite genre, so that of course does have something to do with it. Now, if we are to just look at isometric ARPGs in general, there are a number of them out there, and they all do certain things better than others. Diablo, for example, is probably one of the first big league ARPGs, isometric ARPGs I should say, and it coined the phrase Diablo-like, which I suppose is where other like type games came from, such as Souls-like or things like that. But Diablo, for a very long time, probably even still now, is the benchmark that most other isometric ARPGs are judged against. And it's probably a little bit harsh, because Diablo in and of itself had its heyday, even now, back in the early 2000s with Diablo 2. There are still a number of people who prefer to play Diablo 2 Resurrected than Diablo 4, for example. Now, there are a number of other entries in the ARPG sphere, such as Path of Exile, The Last Epoch, Grim Dawn, you name it, that's just a few of them. Inquisitor Martyr is somewhat of an odd standout in that crowd. Primarily because, A, it's set in the Warhammer 40k universe, which of course I love, and that does help, but also because being set in the Warhammer 40k universe makes it one of the only shooters that you can put in that group. Yes, you have mages, yes, you have archers, but you don't really have any guns or things like that in the rest of them, where you have to manage ammo or anything of that nature. Diablo 2, you had to manage ammo, you had Amazons, and you had to constantly keep quivers of arrows or bolts in your inventory. And that was something even more insane. At least in this one you have unlimited ammo, it's just a clip you have to reload. I think one of the main reasons I do like this game is they have, in my opinion, stayed very true to the source material. It kind of does feel like you're in the 40k universe, playing as, although not a space marine, you are playing as an agent of the Imperium and one of a significantly high standing. That means you have access to a whole entourage of people who, although they don't help you in battle very often, if at all, they are there to talk to you and provide services on the ship that you have acquired. It's not your ship, but it may as well be. Now, it kind of does give you a base of operations, and that again leads on to my next point of why this game is so enjoyable. It's very pick up, play and put down, and you could see that as a negative. But this is mission based, and when I say it's mission based, it's of the nature that you're on your ship, you select a mission from a list, or enable an intel, for example, within your inventory, and that opens up a mission, or you can go on this game's version of a raid, which is called a Void Crusade. All of those are things that you choose to do. It's not a case that you're walking into a town and then you walk out the other side and you're all in the same world. These are instance based, more like an MMO when you go into certain areas. because of that, it means you can literally jump on just to do one mission and then you're back on the ship. The benefit of that is it splits up the game, and I am an absolute nightmare for it that if I'm playing a story-based game, which this has actually, in my opinion, a very compelling story. If you're in a story-based game, you get that one more minute kind of feeling. So you finish off an objective in the story and it instantly opens up another thing that you have to do, and because the other thing is just around the corner, you kind of just carry on, and that can lead to some situations where in my Final Fantasy VII heyday I ended up playing until 6 o'clock in the morning at times because I just didn't realise how long had gone. In this, you can literally just go, it's 20 minutes before work, I'm going to jump into a mission, finish the mission, turn it off, and go to work. And I have done that on numerous occasions. So that's one reason I like this game. The other is, barring its potential graphical hitches, and I will come to that shortly, I do think it looks actually really nice. It's not the best looking game at all. There are better ARPGs out there now, and I use the term now because this is a 7-year-old game. This was produced in 2018, and it's still looking very nice, if I do say so. There are other games out now, of course, like Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4, which graphically beat this. But again, I think they choose colour palettes which are of a singular style. So what I mean by that is Diablo is very colour desaturated, so it's all very earthy colours. You might have some fire, which is quite bright, but it's nowhere near like in your face bright. With this game, you can see that the icons on the screen and some of the skills, etc., are really bright, but the background and the environment is quite drab, as you would expect from a spaceship, in effect. So I think they've got the art direction down really well. You can zoom into your character to a certain degree, but you can't necessarily see it very well when you do so. But even so, you can see it on the starting screen, as you saw at the very beginning of this video. So you get the normal things you find in these games. So you'll get loot, you'll get skill points, you'll get attribute points, and things like that. And what I do find nice about this particular game is you're not tied into your skills and then you just swap your weapons for better damage. The skills are actually tied to your weapon choice. So if you're playing as a Sister of Battle, which I am, and you decide to use the hand flamer and brazier, you will have a completely different set of skills than if you choose to use a bolter, or a bolt rifle as they're called in this. That to me is really good because you can have a completely different playstyle set between your two different equipped weapon slots. You can go from just walking around as though you're a mage using a flamer and a brazier to just using a two-handed weapon, and the weapons themselves can have slots for special abilities. So the hand flamer and the brazier, for instance, has one open skill slot, and that allows you to use special skills that are just for the Sister of Battle, sororitas skills, faith skills, I think. But I have on occasion equipped a two-handed bolt rifle in my second slot, and when I equip that, I no longer have access to my Sisters of Battle skill, so you have a very different playstyle. Now, talking about different playstyles, you also have different types of mission, and it's not just about going around and killing things, although that does heavily kind of feature. It is an ARPG at the end of the day. But you do have assassination missions when the idea is to take out certain creatures. You have purge missions where the idea is to kill everything on the map. You have these destroy the guns missions, or capture the guns. So you have to destroy certain turrets. Siege missions where you have to capture zones. To do that you do have to kill everything in that particular zone. And you also get data hunts. Now these ones, you can actually complete the mission without killing a thing. You can literally just harness the data. Now you have to be extremely good and extremely resilient because you will be attacked while you're harnessing it. But if you don't want to attack back, you don't have to. You just harness the data. There are no just go and fetch me 12 ducks kind of missions you find in MMOs, which I'm kind of glad about because those things are just ridiculous. But you do get those type of feel, especially when you're doing the data hunt, as I say, where you're literally searching for data. There are also hunt the artifact missions where you are quite literally trying to find an artifact. You have to bypass protection zones or shields, etc. So there are different variations to it. And on those different missions you have different map types as well. So you might have the interior of a ship, which we saw in the last mission that the character was doing. This one is an open air battle zone. You have deserts, and those are more sandbox. So there'll be basically a massive square that you can wander anywhere within that square. There are also on rails ones, the ships being one of them. You're walking down ship corridors at the end of the day, so you're not exactly able to just wander wherever you want, but you can go down any corridor that you do want to go down. You just obviously need to go in a certain direction, unfortunately. Now, obviously, it's an old game. It came out in 2018, as I've said before. And there are certain things which they could probably improve on now. So one of those is there are some graphical hitches on PlayStation, for example. Console in general, but PlayStation specifically. One of those is the fact it judders. Now, it's commonly mistaken as being a frame rate problem, but I can categorically say it's not a frame rate problem. I have checked the frame rate and it never dips below 60. I say that, it's gone down to 58 a couple of times, but it stays at 60. What it actually is the background and some of the interactable objects juddering. So it's almost as though the game can't render them fast enough, and it's not a frames per second issue because your character is perfectly fine. It's more the fact that it's utilising memory incorrectly or something like that. I'm not a game designer, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's something to do with how the game's coded compared to the architecture of consoles and PlayStation in general. I know on PC it does need an excessively powerful rig for the graphics to be able to run it at high FPS, for example, so there is something about it. That's not why I've been negative about the game, and I should probably deal with that now. My problem with the game is nothing about the game. My problem with the game is the fact that they do not keep the console up to the same specification and standard as the PC game. And by that I mean they release an update to the PC, a new season, a new class. You can be waiting nearly 2 years before that comes to console. Now, I get that it's a small developer and it does have a small team. And I get that they don't have to release any of their game at all on any platform. I get it. But one thing about this game is it heavily relies on something called a compendium. And that compendium tells you how to make Psalm doctrines, which are basically rune words for this particular game. It tells you what each of the different things mean. It tells you limits to things. It tells you everything. It's kind of like a lore system for the game. It's 90% of the time outdated or completely incorrect for console, because it's telling you about systems that do not exist on the console version. So console players have no way of knowing how to do rune words, for example, if they've added new ones. They have no idea what certain systems mean. So we're trying to find out what's happening in Season 4, and PC is almost at Season 6. So all of the compendium information is about all of the things going on in Season 5. which doesn't help, because again it's another come to this compendium, by the way this is the thing you haven't got. That is my issue with this game. Because of that, it's got to the stage where we're now waiting for the offline mode. So we do have season journey now, which means we can play any season whenever we want, and the character can stay in that season permanently forever, which is brilliant. I love it. We're still waiting for the offline mode, which basically means if they decide to shut down the Neocore servers, we can still play the game. We can't play it co-op at all, but we can still play it single player. Okay, that's fine. At least we have a game we can still play. One thing they have made the decision about, at least for the time being, is the latest class, the Hierophant class, which is out on PC, is not coming to console. So that means a whole playable class, which brings new mechanics, etc, etc to the game, they've decided not to release on console. And some people have said it's because console players are so negative about the game, and look, I get it, I have been relatively negative about it as well. But it's because people love the game. If it was kept up to date, at least like a month, 2 months behind even, I think people would have been much more forgiving and the console players would still be playing the game, like I am. But because 2 years would pass, and having a season where you can complete it that quickly, and then you're stuck playing the same season with another character, but you know that other people are playing a different season, is kind of disheartening. And I think that's the problem. So now that's out of the way, the game itself I absolutely love. Yes, there is juddering of the screen, but the way I play, I either look at my character or I look at the enemies. I don't look in front of my character to where I'm running, and that's just the way I play, so maybe that's a bit odd, but I tended not to see the problem with juddering when I first started playing, and people thought I was crazy. It's just the way I look at my character and I look at the game as I'm playing. That's it. So it doesn't affect me too much. The way the characters interact, all of the mission types, just the general fun of playing the game for me is the reason I keep coming back. And if you enjoy the 40k universe and you're not really into shooters such as Space Marine 2, or you don't like turn-based games such as Chaos Gate or even Rogue Trader, I would definitely recommend getting this game, especially as it is quite often on sale. What I would say as a kind of a note of warning though, do not get the PS5 version and mistakenly buy the DLC for the PS4 version, because this game does not work cross-generation. Your character saves do, but the DLCs don't. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it does. So for example, if you have the PS4 version of the game, and you buy all of the DLCs for the PS4 version of the game, then you buy the PS5 version of the game, it may seem that all of the DLCs work, but that's because the PS5 version came with all of the original DLCs. And by original I mean all the way up to the Sororitas class. If you buy the Sororitas class on the PS4, it does not work on the PS5 version. You have to buy it separately. Just bear that in mind, because I made the mistake of buying it on the PS4 version and then playing the PS5 version and realising I had to buy it again. So I actually own the Sororitas class, which is a £16 purchase, twice. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, I've probably waffled on long enough about why I like this game and why I think you should play it, but hopefully you can see just from the gameplay and what I've said that it does still, even to this day, have a place in your library, and it's worth dipping back into every now and then, especially now you can play the seasons whenever you want and the characters do stay active, I'm going to say, for as long as you want them to be. So as I say, definitely give it a go if you're into ARPGs or just Warhammer 40k in general, and if you do, and for as long as the servers maintain, do consider adding me to your friends list, and maybe we can jump into a co-op game. It would be good to play co-op once again. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching, as always. I really do appreciate it. Please make sure you do click the like button, subscribe if you are new to the channel. Please leave me a comment down below, let me know your thoughts on the game in 2025. Let me know your journey, let everyone else know your journey, what you think of the game, and please do keep it as nice as you possibly can. I know there are a lot of people who are quite negative, as we've discussed, but do try and keep it as, how should I say, polite as possible. If you're not happy, that's fine, but you know, let's keep it at least so I don't get banned off YouTube, please. But yeah, at the same time, you know, comments are always welcome, so please do comment down below. Right, I'm going to leave it there, and I do look forward to seeing you for my next video very soon. You all take care. Bye for now.